About 100 years ago, leading entrepreneurs from the Gilded Age like Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie were fighting to become the world's first billionaire. This is a title that John D. Rockefeller, the founder of Standard Oil, would end up claiming in 1916. 100 years later, we are starting to see the race to trillionaire status slowly brewing up. Now, this isn't to say that today's leading billionaires are any richer, as the billionaires from the Gilded Age are multiples above today's top billionaires after accounting for inflation. But nonetheless, who will win the race to 1 trillion? Well, starting off, just taking a glance at the billionaires list, it becomes clear that the fastest growing billionaires by far are Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, with them each gaining 80 billion and 60 billion respectively just this year. The other billionaires at the top, though still making tens of billions themselves, are gaining just a fraction of this. This is because they are either so diversified that they match market performance, or their companies have matured to a point where the exponential growth is mostly over. As a result, currently, the most likely candidates to reach 1 trillion first are Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. Starting with Jeff Bezos, he has had a tremendous run-up over the past 22 years, growing Amazon from not even $1 billion company to a $1 trillion company. Of course, to match this exponential growth, Amazon must have mind-boggling yearly growth numbers, which they do, with the average yearly growth of 82%. However, that doesn't actually mean that they grew 82% per year, because negative growth numbers are worth significantly more than positive growth numbers. For instance, let's say a company grew 900% one year and then pulled back 80% the following year. If the company was worth $100 originally, at the end of the first year, it would be worth $1,000 after 900% growth. But after the second year, an 80% pullback would bring it back to just $200, despite 80% being less than 10% of 900%. The average return during this period would be 410%, but we know that this is not reflective of the company's real growth. During this time period, the company's overall growth is actually 100%, which is the same as 41.42% per year, which is still very impressive, but clearly nowhere near the 400% average return. So, to calculate Amazon's real return per year, we have to look at how much an investment would have grown during the company's life. If you put in just $100 into Amazon when it became public, you would have $65,538 today, or about 65,000% growth. Spreading that over 22 years, we get an annualized return of 34.28%, or nearly 5 times the market. Using this growth rate in conjunction with Jeff's current wealth of $195 billion, we see that Jeff Bezos could reach the $1 trillion mark in just 5.5 years, or near the beginning of 2026. But the thing is, most of Amazon's growth is already done. In fact, Amazon stock stagnated at $1,800 to $2,000 per share for about 1.5 years. And if it weren't for the pandemic driving more online sales, this would likely still be the case. Moreover, we may very well see a pullback in Amazon stock after the pandemic, so it's not realistic to expect this growth rate for another 6 years. To put this in perspective, Amazon would have to be an $8 to $8.5 trillion company for Jeff to reach the $1 trillion mark, and that's very unlikely within the next 6 years, especially with them selling billions of dollars worth of stock every year. Now, he is investing this money into Blue Origin, which does have exponential growth prospects. However, the main bottle cap in this sector is the growth of the space marketplace. I'm sure in 20 to 30 years, he could grow this into a multiple $1 trillion company, but within the next 10 years, Blue Origin is unlikely to really grow his net worth significantly, simply because the space marketplace just won't be ready in that time frame, at least not in the $1 trillion range. Blue Origin may, however, become a few $100 billion company by then, giving Jeff Bezos another $100 to $200 billion. But again, Amazon would have to account for about $800 to $900 billion of Jeff's wealth. So if we input a more realistic growth rate of 20% for Jeff's net worth, it would take him about 9 more years to reach the $1 trillion mark, or basically until 2030. But even that is quite high, and it's very possible that Amazon is closer to market performance over the next decade. Thus, with a 10% growth rate, it would take 17 years or near the end of the 2030s. So, though Jeff Bezos could reach the $1 trillion mark this decade if Amazon continues with its exponential run, this is not very likely. A more realistic time frame would be 2030 to 2035. Elon Musk, on the other hand, has a much better shot at reaching the $1 trillion mark within this decade, as his companies are still in the exponential growth phase, unlike Amazon. Similar to Jeff Bezos, most of Elon's wealth growth over the next decade will likely come from Tesla as opposed to SpaceX due to limiting factors in the space market. Elon Musk currently owns 19% of Tesla. However, he gets another 1% of the total outstanding shares of Tesla for every $50 billion increase in market cap up until a market valuation of $650 billion. Of course, he also has to hit revenue and income-based milestones to cash out on this incentive. But assuming he does, he would roughly grow his position to 25% of Tesla. And that's assuming he gets no more stock after a $650 billion valuation and the respective milestones. As for how much profit Tesla could be making in the next 10 years, if Tesla is able to grow into a high-volume electric car maker, that itself would give Elon hundreds of billions of dollars. Currently, Volkswagen and Toyota push 10 million cars per year, while Tesla, on the other hand, is targeting to push just 500,000 cars this year, or just 5%. But this is mostly due to manufacturing limitations as opposed to demand limitations. Right now, Tesla is aiming to produce 500,000 cars per factory and are building 2 factories, one in Berlin and one in Austin, which will put their total factory count at 5. Just achieving their production numbers per factory, after these 2 factories are up and running, Tesla would be able to produce 2.5 million cars per year. If they continue building 2 factories per year, they would easily have 20 to 25 factories by the end of the decade, producing about 10 to 12 million cars per year. As long as demand is able to scale up, which is quite likely given decreases in car prices and the fact that both Volkswagen and Toyota are already able to support these numbers, Tesla should be able to get to at least 10 million cars sold per year by the end of the decade. Currently, Tesla doesn't profit very much, as most of their profits go towards building new factories and other capital investments. However, as they scale up, the cost of building factories will become a smaller and smaller portion of their income. Assuming they achieve a net profit margin of 5%, which is less than Toyota's net profit margin of 7% and about the same as Volkswagen's net profit margin, Tesla would achieve a yearly profit of $15 billion at an average car price of $30,000, which is significantly less than their current average car price. With their current PE ratio of over 900, which is the ratio between their profit and market valuation, they would actually be over a $10 trillion company. But assuming the PE ratio settles down to something much more reasonable, like 100, which is less than where Amazon currently sits, Tesla would be worth $1.5 trillion, giving Elon Musk $375 billion. Giving him the same $100 to $200 billion from his rocket company SpaceX, Elon Musk would be worth $500 to $600 billion by the end of the decade. And that's the very minimum, as that completely ignores Tesla's autonomous driving technology, their robotaxi network, their battery technology, and their solar business, which is where Tesla will get most of its profit. Instead of selling those 10 million cars, if Tesla's full self-driving technology is ready in the next 10 years, they can put those 10 million cars into their robotaxi network, from which each car is expected to profit $30,000 per year. At that rate, this fleet alone will bring in $300 billion in profit per year. Even at just a PE ratio of 10, that would make Tesla a $3 trillion company, giving Musk $750 billion. But it's likely that Tesla will have a PE ratio in the 30s, as that's what other mature tech companies like Microsoft and Apple boast. At a PE ratio of 30, Tesla would be a $9 trillion company, giving Musk $2.25 trillion. And that's still completely ignoring the growth of the robotaxi fleet, as well as any profit from licensing the autopilot software or battery technology to other car manufacturers. It's also ignoring the entirety of their solar business, not to mention Musk's space company, Boring Company, and Neuralink, which could give him multiple trillion each. With all this being said, even if Jeff is able to beat Elon to the first trillion, Elon will surely be the richest trillionaire by far soon after. Heck, he may even reach 10 trillion by the time he dies. Do you guys think anyone else could reach a trillion faster? Comment that down below. Also, drop a like if you guys appreciate the depth of this analysis and consider subscribing to see more questions logically answered. But until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.